Hey guys, this is Doing from NoCode Engine, and today I'm going to be introducing you to a Framer extension that can help you paginate your CMS items in Framer. So this is kind of a new plugin we just created, and it's basically to address the CMS pagination, like I just mentioned. And one major consideration that was made when building this is to make use of classes to make the extension very flexible. So what I mean by that is this: we actually just created certain classes that you can add to any of your framework or UI components, and then it will be able to take on the functionality of controlling how the pagination components would work. So this documentation, which I'll be sharing along with a link to how to obtain the extension, which is absolutely free. The extension is absolutely free. It's going to be made available to you at no cost. So all you need to do is copy the extension, like copy the extension itself, and paste it in your project, and you should be good to go. So yeah, this are a couple of classes that were created to make the extension very configurable and very like flexible. So all you need to do is, like I said, is add some of these classes to your UI components, and it should be able to control how the extension works. So let me quickly go through these classes. So here we have the NC item class, which is what you need to add to an instance of um, the the list you're trying to paginate. I'll be showing you what that means in a second. Then we have the NC next page, which is just a class that you can add to your button. NC previous page, which is also a class you can add to like your previous button. That's if you want to go back in your pagination list. Maybe on another page you want to go back, you can use this for the button that should do that. Then you have the NC page number, which just displays a some information about what page you are on and what is the total number of pages available. Then you have the pagination nav and page loader. These two classes are not that important, but yeah, they are also documented there just in case. Okay, and here we have an empty Framer project with which I'm going to show you how to configure the pagination extension for use. So before you start this tutorial, just make sure you already have the pagination extension in your project. This is it right here for me. I have this here. And yeah, in your own case, you'd probably just need to like copy and paste that into your project, and it will be made available to you in your components right here. Now, the list I'll be paginating today is the CMS, the default CMS list that comes with Framer. And to add that, all I need to do is click here and do add sample. Then it gives me this list again. Um, okay, and it gives me this list here. So let's dive right into how to actually use this component. So for now, I'll take this list and bring it out of this canvas here, and then I'll bring the component itself because I need to make it a parent for this list. So I'll put that component on the canvas instead. Um, Now, what I need to do next is make this list, this collection list, a child of the component, that's of this extension, the paginator extension. And to do that, if you scroll down while the pagination extension is selected, as you can see under the layers, I have the pagination extension selected. You scroll down, then you see a configuration, like a list of configurations for the extension itself. So children here is talking about what kind of items do you want the extension to contain. So whatever you select here will be what will be inside the extension. So as you've seen, I just selected this collection list here as one of its children, and yeah, it's inside the extension. Now let me just stretch the canvas a bit to make it uh, yeah, so now, so like that, we have this collection list within it. Now, I made mention of the use of classes here, where I said NC item is a class that you assign to an instance of an item within the list you are trying to paginate. So what that means is this: if you come here, for example, you'll notice this collection list has only one component, and then you have like a lot of other components here as well that are derived from that single component. Now the NC item class needs to be added to that single component here, as you can see. So to do that, I can just do a add frame here, and then the frame is going to be added to this collection list, and the component is going to be within that frame. So I can now add my class to this frame itself. Now, if you don't know how to add a custom class to a Framer component, I included the link in the documentation for you. So you can just click this link and it will take you to a brief tutorial on how to do that. So the only thing you need here is this export function with class. I'll show you how to use it in a second. Now coming back to this, so we already have our frame here. Now you should also note that if you have multiple items instead of one primary item where you create variants of that primary item, in that case you will need to add the same NC item class to each of those items that you have. But I would recommend you always create a single item and just make sure every other item on that list are just variants of that single item. Now, in this case, we want to actually add a class to this frame here. So you make sure the frame is selected. Then you scroll down, you come to code overrides here. Then usually what you will need to do is create a new file. So you give the file a name. I like to give it a name that is related to the class I'm trying to create. So let's just call this 3, and then it creates that for you. Now you can come back to this tutorial here and simply copy this. Then you come here, just at the very bottom here, you add this, and then you can copy the class name you are trying to add, and then you replace this test with that class name, and yeah, voila, you have a new class name for your list item right here. Now once that is done, you are not completely done with this. Still make sure the frame is selected. Then you come here, you select the new class you just created, the new custom class component file you just created for your code override. You select that, then you select what you want it to override. In this case, I want it to override class, so you select with class. And if you go back in, if you remember, this is what we just added, this with class, and then it's going to like override, it's going to add a class to that NC item class to each of the items on this list. Since you added it to the primary item, which is this, it will add it to every other item on this list. And just like that, you've been able to create, you've been able to add a custom class to the items in your page on the list you are trying to paginate. Now let's quickly see if everything is working as expected. So you can come back to the paginator component now. Let's do a limit of 2. Make sure it's visible. Let's do a limit of 2, which will just be a quick way of validating that this paginator component is working properly with your list. So when I launch a preview of this, I should only see 2 items on this list. And yes, as you can see, there are only 2 items on the list. So our paginator component is working as expected. Now let's add some buttons to control the page we are viewing at the moment. So like I said, the reason why we decided to go with classes is to allow you be able to use the classes with any kind of UI component you want, designed in your own way. So for my own purpose of this tutorial, I'll just be using this this button controls that I initially created. So you see, I have a previous here, I have this to represent what page I'm on, and I have this to go to the next page of the list I'm paginating. So I'll just copy this over. Now I need to add this as a class, as a child to the paginator component as well. So I can just come here, select paginator, and give it another child. And then it's been added, but I would prefer it at the top. You can add it to wherever you want, but I'll prefer at the top. So now that has been added. What we need to do again is exactly how we added the NC item class, but in this case we are adding NC next page and NC preview page. So to do that, I can come here, select this control here, and I can simply do exactly the same thing. Add a new file, a new code override file, and then copy this same with class function here, and do exactly the same thing. Replace the test with the NC next page, NC previous page. But since I've already done that before now, I'll just be using the override I created earlier. And if I come here, you see it's exactly the same thing. I just have the NC next page, which is this, and then I can just do the same thing for the previous as well. Yes, and what am I overriding? The class. If I come in here, it's still the same thing, as you can see. Then I also want to add a class. That is the page number for this component right here. And to do that, I come here again and do with class. Now everything should be set at this point. Next page, previous page, and page number. So everything should be good at this point. Now let's see if it works. Can just do, and as you can see, it's paginating my Framer CMS items. Now if you select the paginator again and you come down here in the configuration, you can see we have multiple pagination types here. We have the next previous and we have load more. Gap in this case is a way of adding distance between multiple components. So as you can see here, we have two components within this paginator. So it has two children, it has the pagination numbers, and it has the collection list you are paginating. So you can just increase this gap to add some distance between them. Then visible is if it's visible or not, and limit is the number of items that should be shown at any point in time. So for now, we want to use another pagination type, which is load more. Load more in this case would be a button that when you click it, it's going to load more items, and instead of loading them as see if they are on another page, it's just going to add some more items to this list until you get to the end of the list. In this case, I want to use another button entirely, so I want to use this button here. I can just copy this, bring it here, and I want to remove the initial button I was using as a child of paginator, and then use the load more instead. So let me just remove this, then let's add the load more button, which is this one. And then to make this work properly, I would need to switch to the pagination type to load more, like I mentioned earlier. And another thing I would need to do is add this next page class to the load more button. So it doesn't need to, I don't need to do any new kind of class. I don't need to use any new kind of class. All I need to do is add this next page class to this load more button, and then switch the pagination type. and yeah, we should be good to go. So let me just do that here. So I need to select the load more button, which is inside this frame here, and then I need to give it the next page class, and let's see if this works. Now if I click load more, as you can see, it loaded some other items as well. Yeah, and that's it. So if you have any questions, any bug reports, any issues whatsoever with this components, so I included a link here that you can just visit. It takes you to a GitHub page where you can just create a new issue and report any bug you find. And yeah, someone will get to it as quickly as possible. So we still need some recommendations, your support in using and helping us find whatever is wrong, if there's anything wrong with the extension, or if there's anything that needs to be improved about it. So we'll be looking forward to any issues or comments you actually make. I'm doing once again, and this has been a tutorial video about the Paginate extension by NoCode Engine. And yeah, happy hacking. Thank you.